Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In a hadith of Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu anhu, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Udhkuru mahasina mawtakum. Talk about the good attributes and qualities of your deceased. There's also a narration of Abu al-Aswad that he says that we came to Madinatul Munawwara and we sat with Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anhum. And then a janazah was brought by. And those who were around praised the person. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said that wajabat, it has become incumbent. Then another janazah was brought and the same happened. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said it has become incumbent. And then the third janazah was brought and the same happened. But this time people spoke ill of the person. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said that has also become incumbent. So those around asked, وَمَا وَجَبَتْ يَا أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ? What is it that has become incumbent? And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said, أَيُّمَا مُسْلِمٍ شَهِدَ لَهُ أَرْبَعَةٌ بِخَيْرٍ. That any Muslim who passes away and four people give good testimony in his favor, speak favorably about him, أَدْخَلَهُ اللَّهُ جَنَّةً. Allah will enter that person into Jannah. And the Sahaba asked, what about three? And Sayyidina Umar said, yes, also three. And even if two people speak good about the marhum, it becomes a means of entry into Jannah for the marhum. So in light of these hadith, I would like to spend a few minutes reflecting on the life and death of my marhum Moosagie and father-in-law, Uncle Rasheed Ahmed Salaam, who passed away on Laylatul Jummah on the 18th of Zulhijjah, Thursday evening, the 6th of July. Recently we had a guest from Jalalabad, India, Mufti Abdul Sattar, and he was lamenting the lack of respect in the English language. And he said, he doesn't like this word father-in-law. And he said it should rather be father-in-love. And yes, that would be a better way to describe our relationship. Uncle Rasheed was born in December 1948 and was 74 years old at the time of his demise. And I will share with you a bit of information that I heard over time while living with him in Lenasia for 15 beautiful years, alhamdulillah. What I recall is that he was born in Heidelberg and lived a portion of his childhood there, and also in Rustenburg, where his marhum father, Maulana Abdul Salam, was the Imam in Rustenburg. He also passed away in Rustenburg. He was the alim of the town, the Imam at a time when there were very few ulama in South Africa. So Uncle Rasheed did some of his schooling there in Rustenburg and completed his schooling there. And also, due to the oppressive apartheid laws not affording opportunities to all, he had to travel abroad to pursue his tertiary education. So he traveled with his younger brother, Marhum Abdul Halim, by ship to Pakistan. And on this journey, they passed many ports on the African coast: Lorenzo Marques, Maputo, Darussalam, Mombasa, Mauritius, and other ports. And over time he would share the description of these ports. I remember when I visited Mombasa in 2016 and to give some talks there, and when I came back and I spoke about this unique, beautiful, bustling city, island of Mombasa, and he described it exactly as I had seen it to be. So on the journey to Pakistan, they passed by many of the ports, a journey by ship. So it was Uncle Rasheed and Uncle Halim who went to study in Karachi. While they were there, they also traveled to India. They visited the Gam, Lajpur. And he, fondly spoke about Lajpur. He was very attached to the Gam. Whenever he met someone who was from his Gam, he would be very happy. Marhum Maulana Ibrahim Bamji rahimahullah, who performed my nikah, was also from Lajpur. And he would always, when we would meet him, he would always give updates on Lajpur and talk about the different family members there and, what's happening there, and talk about the ulama of Lajpur and the muftis of Lajpur. Alhamdulillah. So coming back to the life story, for some reason they did not come right with their studies in Pakistan. So Uncle Halim returned to South Africa and became a teacher, while Marhum Uncle Rasheed went to Dublin, Ireland, and he pursued some studies there. He'd always make jokes about how the Irish didn't like to bath. So he spent some time there, and eventually his pursuit of knowledge of, his career took him to Egypt, where he started off at the Zagazig University with brother Dr. Yunus Saleh and Dr. Farooq Adamji. And they then moved to Alexandria, at university where they completed their MBBCH. I think after that he returned to South Africa where he worked in a number of hospitals. I remember him talking about the Sebokeng Hospital. And around 1987, that is when he married my Khala, Tahira Asmal. They had 3 kids, Fatima, Muhammad and Amina, who alhamdulillah are all married. Uncle Rasheed had a great love for the Haramain. He loved Madinatul Munawwara. He loved Makkatul Mukarramah. Alhamdulillah, he had the opportunity to perform Hajj and many Umrahs. And whenever the idea came up of a holiday, his choice was always Umrah. In recent years, he traveled to Turkey, to China, where his son Muhammad did his MBBCH. He traveled to Iran, where he visited the qabr of the poet Shirazi, and we'll talk about that. And also in Turkey, the qabr of Jalaluddin Rumi. In the lead up to this year's Hajj, he had the desire to do a Hajj Badal for his brother Abdul Halim, and even visited the Sauk offices and tried to explore the opportunity in this regard. Alhamdulillah, my sister-in-law Amina and her husband Mulana Shoaib Pando performed Hajj this year. And their 3 boys stayed for the first 2 weeks with their Dadi and Dada, and then came to PE with my father-in-law and mother-in-law. They all went PE for about 3 weeks and even made Eid in PE. And I remember on the night, in the end of the day of Eid, he said to my wife Fatima that I had a beautiful Eid. During the stay in Port Elizabeth, we went to Plettenberg Bay for 1 week, and he really enjoyed it. And he said that, this feels like a different country, and was looking at the homes and looking at the prices and opportunity. And while we were in PE, I gave 2 Jummah talks and the Eid talk. And after each talk, he would come home and he would say to my kids that, your Abba gave such a beautiful talk today, he made me cry. Around the end of last year, Uncle Rasheed was diagnosed with bladder cancer, and after 3 months, he went for a checkup, and it was clear initially they did some treatment for that. And last week, he went for another checkup, and it was clear. The doctor said that he needed to do an op on the prostate, and this perturbed him, and he was, quite concerned about this. So on Thursday, we drove up to Joburg to bring the kids back to visit him and to meet my brother-in-law and sister-in-law who were returning from Hajj on Saturday. And while we were on the road, Rasheed kept asking, how far are they? He was waiting for us. And we reached around 5 p.m. And while I was carrying the bags, he came out of his room and I greeted him. After that, the food was ready and the kids were hungry, so we sat down to eat. He said he's not feeling well, and, he took his food to the room. And I followed him to the room. And when he sat down to eat, I looked at him and I said, Gauteng is not good for you. You were looking so good when you came back from PE. Rather move back to PE. And thereafter, we stood up to make the Maghrib Salah with the Jama'ah. And he saw us and he went to the bathroom to prepare himself. He then came out, and while he was preparing himself for the Salah and for Laylatul Jummah, he then passed away. He loved Yawmul Jummah, and Allah Rabbul Izzah honored him with death on Yawmul Jummah. In a hadith it comes that ما من مسلم يموت يوم الجمعة أو ليلة الجمعة إلا وقاه الله تعالى فتنة القبر. That if any person passes away on Yawmul Jummah or the night of Jummah, which is Thursday night, Allah will save that person from the tribulations of the qabr. So he had this deep love for Yawmul Jummah. You take a ghusl on Thursday evenings and put on his kurta, try to go to the masjid early for the Isha Salah, and also the entire night recite abundance of durood. And he had his special wazifas that he learned from his father, and what he had written in his books that he would read on the Thursday evening. Even for the Jummah, it was a big event. He would go early for the Jummah. He loved to go to the Nur Islam Masjid, even though it would take extra time getting to Nur Islam from Extension 9 and getting back. But that was his love for Jummah, and Allah had honored him with a death on Jummah. When I look back at his life, he loved the ulama. He never liked people speaking ill of ulama. He loved to help people. He always had a beautiful smile on his face. Over the years, I can fondly recall that whenever we would enter Masjid Sayyidina Hamza in the evenings for Maghrib and Isha Salah, and when we were leaving and going to the car, he would share a joke or some laughter with whoever you would meet in the process of going into the masjid and coming out of the masjid. And coming out of the masjid, you would stand for a while with the brothers chatting after salah, till someone would say, Mufti is waiting in the car, don't make him wait. And I didn't mind, because while sitting in the car and waiting for him, I would make tilawah of the Noble Quran. His presence will sorely be missed. The home feels empty. He had a special relationship with his grandchildren. For my tismiyah, he would always say, give her a break, she's doing hibs. For Safura, he loved her inquiring mind and her proficiency in maths, and he was thrilled when she got 100 in her exams. My Nabila, he would call her my happiness, and Muhammad Hanif, he would say that my lion. And for all his grandchildren, Ahmed, Umar, Uthman, Hafsa and Abdurrahman, he had pet names, and he had special love for each one of them. And all children, in the family, he would always, when some of the family kids would visit him at the surgery, where he went to surgery till Monday and Tuesday. Throughout his life, dedicated and committed and exerting himself in different ways. And whenever the family children would come to the surgery, he would always rush to buy for them some sweets, chocolates, and want to give them something. May Almighty Allah fill his qabr with noor, elevate his stages and grant him complete maghfirat. It was his dream, it was his desire that he gets buried in the qabr of his marhum mum. And Alhamdulillah, we're grateful to my Mamaji, Yusuf Asmal, and his son Maulana Muhammad Ziyad, who made this possible. And also, Alhamdulillah, I'm very impressed with the Jamiat's burial services. Brother Shiraz, Brother Uncle Hanif, who were very kind, gentle and professional throughout the process of the ghusl, transporting of the mayyit, picking up and dropping off, and the burial process. May Allah Rabbul Izzah grant us sabrun jameel. May Allah make it easy for one and all. May Allah Rabbul Izzah keep us steadfast on Iman. Grant us death with Iman, and make our best day the day when we meet with Almighty Allah. Man ahabba liqa Allah, ahabba Allahu liqa'ahu. Whoever loves to meet Allah, Allah loves to meet that person. Al-mawtu jisrun yusilul habib ila al-habib. Death is a bridge that joins the lover with his beloved.